Pizza dough recipe. 3 cups flour, about 1.5 cups water, 1 teaspoon of yeast, 1 teaspoon of vital wheat gluten, which is important to add if you're just using general all-purpose flour. If you're using bread flour, you could probably skip the vital wheat gluten, but helps give the yeast something to work on. Turn it on, add about half of the water. Let it get a good time to mix. Sometimes what you'll have to do is stop the machine and use something like this and just kind of scrape in the sides to get it into a little more of a ball. Just help the machine out a bit. But if you don't, it'll just keep going like this. It'll be just fine. You'll see I kind of push down the sides to give it a little bit, and then I'll just start adding kind of more of the water. And just let it go. This whole process takes like 3-4 minutes. So I'll come back in about 3 minutes and I'll show you what it looks like. So after about 3 minutes, this is what you had. I shut it off once, about 2 minutes in, and scrape down the sides. And there you have it. There's your basic pizza dough. Then you'll just take your board, sprinkle some flour on it, which I'll do. You'll line these with a little bit of olive oil, and you got to knead it out a bit. And I'll show you kneading it in a minute. So there are tons of videos online about kneading dough. Essentially, when you take the dough out of that mixer, it'll be sticky, right? It looks like a sticky clump. So what you do is you essentially spread flour out and you roll the dough around and kind of coat it to remove the stickiness, actually. And then you'll see you get a little more of a ball that's not so sticky. That's really kind of kneading the dough and moving it through. So essentially then I'll take this ball and I'll cut it in half, and I'll kind of like roll it and form it like you see people kneading online, which I can't do because I only have one hand. And then I put some olive oil in here, and I'll just like move my hand around to move the olive oil in. And then I'll put both sides of the dough in, and then I'll seal it, actually. And that's the key I learned, is to put it in something that seals it. So I'll take this, pretty much slice it in half. That's it. At the end, your cutting board, just use it, slice it in half, roll it a little bit around and kind of ball it up, get the rest of the flour off, coat it in olive oil, sit in here, 3-4 hours. I'll come back. So this whole process I did now from the beginning to stop, less than 20 minutes. Okay, it's about 6 hours later, and you can see it's more than enough risen. So what I will do is I will take this out. I will sprinkle some more flour on here, knead it through, and then for me, I'll cut it in half again, and then I'll show you about how big that gets for cooking it on a tray or on or in a pan pizza like I'm gonna do. So this is how we'll do it. Bring this out and knead it through here a bit. As you can see, it comes out easy with the little olive oil on it. Just kind of knead it through real easy, and it picks up all the flour. And just keep doing this and give it a few like this and fold it over until you get a nice ball. And then we'll take it and cut it in half, and I'll show you how to spread it out. Feel free to sprinkle down more flour, as I had to do just to get it, but you'll feel it's a lot more elasticy, and that's how you know it's a pretty decent rise. So when it comes to spreading out the pizza dough, you're kind of on your own. All I know is you got to keep putting flour on it, because when you spread it, you'll see like it gets the wet parts get in here. And I think the pros, they just keep flour on it, and as they spread it, it incorporates more flour into it. I have to use a rolling pin because I cut it in half for like a personal pizza. If you're making it for 2 or 3, you could probably use both of these. You don't cut it in half, and just roll it out or spread it out. Look up a video how to do it. I'm not very good at doing it, but essentially I have this. I'll put it in my pan, put a little olive oil on it, cook it first, 500 degrees. I'll come back. I use a cast iron pan now because I'm lazy. I sprinkle it with a little bit of cornmeal on the bottom, and then I put the pizza in it. See? Me putting it in half, fits in here perfectly. I coat it with a little olive oil. I'll throw it in the oven at 500 degrees when it hits for like, 5 or 8 minutes, just to kind of get the dough cooking a little bit. And then I'll take it out when the dough has a little bit of cook, and then I'll put on the tomato sauce and the toppings, and then let it cook the rest of the way. After 8 minutes in the oven, comes out like this. Give it a little one of these to get any air bubbles out of it. You could probably leave it in for 10 minutes or so, but I'm going to take it out after 8. Depends on how your oven is. Add your tomato sauce and your favorite toppings. This is sun-dried tomato, roasted red pepper, and some of my hot peppers. If you're adding cheese, I would suggest not to do it yet. I mean, you could, but mozzarella cheese will melt it. So I'll throw this back in the oven for like another 8 minutes or so, and then I'll take it out. Then I'll throw the cheese on and leave it in there for, depends on what kind of cheese you use. So here I put on actually Pecora Romano cheese. That's what I like on mine, and a little basil. And now, after 8 minutes or so, when this is all cooked, you can throw it back in the oven. If you have mozzarella cheese, leave it on, let the cheese melt. Because if you threw the cheese in at the same time as all this, it'd probably be burned by the time the dough finished cooking. But you can see the dough is getting a nice, this is a thin crust. And I'll actually just throw it in for a few minutes to get it heated through, get the basil done, and then that's it. You could sprinkle some olive oil on the top. That's Neapolitan pizza. And that's it, there you go. Took it out. This is me, I threw some balsamic glaze on it. That's about how big it comes for that one slice of pizza. This is really a personal pizza. So make a bigger one. Don't cut it in half. Like this is my half and this is a whole, and this was all one batch. So a whole one will make a pizza obviously twice as big, probably, for a bigger family. But there you go. That's how you make a pizza from a to scratch. Add a little